Before the gods of Asgard raised their gleaming halls, before even Ymir's bones gave rise to Midgard, there was only the endless black and abyss where silence reigned supreme. It was there in the hollowness between light and nothingness that the primeval being Knull stirred. Born of the void itself, Knull despised creation. To him, every spark of light was an insult, a blemish against the purity of shadow. When the Celestials first swung their fiery forges and sang stars into existence, Knull raised his hand and shaped from his own abyssal essence a blade unlike any other, the All-Black Necrosword. With it he carved down one of those radiant giants and declared eternal war against creation. Thus, the god of the abyss rose, vowing to snuff out every flame. For eons, Knull spread his dominion, sending symbiotic tendrils through galaxies, binding worlds in eternal night. Armies of living shadows, clad in oily flesh, marched at his command. Entire pantheons trembled before him. Countless gods fell beneath the curve of the Necrosword. His power was not of mere conquest, it was erasure. He was the anti-song to the music of creation, the silence that devoured harmony, and yet his name was not unknown to the halls of Asgard. Odin All-Father had heard whispers of Knull in the hidden runes of the Norns, and though the All-Father was mighty, even he knew the shadow god was not one to challenge carelessly. Odin buried the knowledge deep, binding it within spells and wards, for he knew that if the god of thunder were to meet the god of the abyss unprepared, the cosmos itself would tremble. But the cosmos was never meant to be peaceful forever. After Ragnarok was averted and Asgard rebuilt, Thor Odinson, son of Odin, found himself changed. The trials of Midgard, the breaking of Mjolnir, the weight of kingship, all had driven him beyond what even the sagas foretold. When Thor undertook the great sacrifice and became Rune King Thor, he reached beyond the power of Odin, beyond the boundaries of the 9 realms themselves, into the raw tapestry of fate. He tore out his eyes and hung himself upon Yggdrasil, offering his life for wisdom, until the secrets of creation itself whispered back into him. No longer just a warrior, Thor became the living embodiment of the runes, a vessel of cosmic awareness, wielding not only strength and storm, but the power to unmake and rewrite. In this ascension, Thor discovered the truth his father had hidden. Deep within the branches of Yggdrasil lay records of Knull's movements, the spreading black, the symbiote armies, the shattering of divine realms at his blade. And worse still, Thor saw visions of a coming tide, Knull stirring once more, his shadow creeping toward Midgard and beyond, hungering for the throne of light itself. The revelation shook Thor's soul. He had fought giants, demons, gods and world-eaters, but this was something older, fouler. Unlike Surtur's flames or Jörmungandr's venom, this was not an element of creation gone awry. It was creation's negation, an unmaking force. Where Knull stepped, even the runes dimmed, as if refusing to sing his name. Knull's return was heralded by storms that blotted out stars, symbiote dragons descending upon distant realms, and whispers carried through the void. The abyss is awake. In the dark corners of Nidavellir, the dwarves reforging weapons heard the scrape of unseen claws. In Alfheim, the fair folk saw flowers curl inward, their colors drained to gray. Even in the halls of hell, the dead stirred uneasily, for Knull's shadow stretched beyond life and death alike. Thor knew he could not stand idle. The throne of Asgard felt heavier than ever, for he bore not just the burden of kingship, but the fate of all realms. In visions carved by the Norns, he saw Midgard blanketed in black symbiote webs, humanity enslaved to a will not their own, and Yggdrasil itself strangled by tendrils of living abyss. The All-Black gleamed in those visions, dripping with ichor from slain gods, and Thor recognized it for what it was, the blade of endings. Thus he resolved, he would not wait for Knull's darkness to reach the heart of Midgard. He would march to meet the abyss head-on. For what was the purpose of becoming Rune King Thor, if not to confront threats that none else dared face? In the silence of night upon Asgard's golden walls, Thor spoke with the spirits of his forebears. Odin's shade warned him of Knull's cunning, Frigga whispered of courage, and even Bor, ancient as the first wars of gods, admitted that to face Knull was to face despair itself. Yet Thor's resolve was unshaken. He was no longer the brash young god who swung Mjolnir at every foe. He was wisdom and war made flesh. He was the storm that learned to read the sky, and so he carved wards of protection into the air with glowing runes, weaving enchantments older than Asgard itself. He gathered the storm not only of Midgard, but of all 9 realms, lightning humming through the void like war drums. With his hand outstretched, he did not call Mjolnir. No, the weapon was long gone, shattered. Instead, he summoned the storms themselves, raw and unbound, for Rune King Thor needed no hammer to channel his might. From beyond the veil, the abyss stirred in answer. Knull felt Thor's defiance ripple through the fabric of reality. The god of the abyss smiled, his fanged maw gleaming as shadows coiled at his feet. To him, Thor was not a threat, but a promise, a god worth breaking, a light worth extinguishing. Thus, across the gulfs of space, 2 destinies curved toward collision. Thor, Rune King of the Rune Song, and Knull, wielder of the All-Black. One, the embodiment of creation's defiance, the other the abyss that sought to silence it forever. The stage was set. The storm would meet the void, and the cosmos would tremble. The first strike came not with blade nor thunder. Knull Thor thundered, his voice echoing across worlds, "Your shadow ends here." Knull answered with a smile sharper than his sword, "God of thunder, king of nothing, you are but a candle waiting to be snuffed." With a single motion, he swung the Necrosword, and its arc split through space itself, cleaving a star in 2. The fragments fell like dying suns. Thor met the strike with a gesture, runes flaring as he twisted the laws of fate itself. The storm surged, intercepting the All-Black with bolts of lightning thick as mountains. The clash tore apart entire constellations, black and white energies colliding in an explosion that rippled across creation. Realms far and near trembled, their people raising their eyes in fear of the war in the heavens. The battle raged without pause. Thor hurled bolts infused with the runes of unmaking, tearing through swarms of symbiote dragons. Yet from every wound they split, birthing more, the abyss multiplying endlessly. Knull advanced through the storm, his steps staining space itself, each slash of the Necrosword erasing what it touched. Thor met him head-on. With a roar he summoned the primal storm of creation, striking Knull with such force that entire galaxies flared as though reborn. But the god of the abyss endured, his laughter echoing even as lightning carved his flesh. He drove the Necrosword deep into Thor's chest, shadows writhing to consume the thunderer whole. For a heartbeat, the storm faltered. Darkness coiled, threatening to unmake Thor as it had so many gods before. But Thor was no longer only thunder. He was runes, sacrifice and wisdom. With his hands he grasped the blade itself, runes blazing from his palms, rewriting its essence. The Necrosword screamed, for the first time resisting its master's will. Knull's eyes widened in fury. "You dare?" Thor's answer was the storm itself. He wove runes into lightning, turning the storm into a spear of pure destiny. With one final strike, he drove it through Knull's chest, piercing the abyss with the song of creation. The symbiote armies shrieked as their link shattered, collapsing into formless black. The void shuddered as light reclaimed what was stolen. Knull staggered, wings burning away, ichor spilling across the void. Yet even broken, his grin lingered. "You have not destroyed me, Thunderer. You have only delayed the silence." And with that, the god of the abyss dissolved into shadow, retreating into the darkness between realms. Thor hovered amidst the ruins of stars, storms fading around him. He had won, not with brute strength, but with the wisdom and sacrifice of the Rune King. Yet he knew Knull's words were truth. The abyss could never truly die. It could only be beaten back until the storm rose again. For now, though, creation sang, and Thor, Rune King of Asgard, stood as its shield.